Even the most advanced Excel users get errors in their sheets from time to time. In today's tutorial, we're going to learn 10 of the most common errors, why they happen, and how to solve them. Now, if you learn something new, I would love to hear in the comments below. And if you find another way to solve the error, I would also love to know. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So the first error we're going to have a look at is the hashtag error. Okay, now you can see that in column E, the sales of 2022 are hashtagged. Now, how can we solve this? What's the issue here? Okay, so when you go into the cell of E4, you can see that there is a value here, but it's not appearing. Very simple. All you need to do is go up here, and when you widen the column, you'll find the data here. All right, let's just Control Z to see that. Again, we can stand here and we can just double click that to do it. So to prevent this happening, I'm going to show you a little trick that's going to involve a little bit of VBA, but it's just two simple words, so anyone can do this. Follow me right here. The first thing that you're going to do is have a look if you have the developer tab up here. Now, if you don't have the developer tab, just go onto the ribbon, right click, and you go to customize the ribbon. Once you have your dialog box open, you're going to find a list of tabs here. So you've got your home tab that are checked or not. Now, if your developer tab is not checked here, just simply check it and it's going to appear in your ribbon. So let's go across to the developer tab. We're going to go and click into Visual Basic. And now when we go into Visual Basic, we just have our sheets here, which is called the error sheet or a workbook. We're going to click on our sheet. We're going to double click on it and it's going to open up a box for us. Okay, now I'm just going to delete this. So I'm going to show you how it works from scratch. So you're going to have a box like this. Now you're going to come down and click onto Worksheet and it automatically generates this. When you go to the right box, we're going to click on Change and that's it. Now we've got our little typing box here. So we're just going to enter it a couple of times just to give us a little bit of space. Now, these are the two words that you need to remember and it's columns dot auto. As you see, it comes up already with a drop down auto fit. Okay, tab, and that's it. Now press save. Now what is this going to do? Okay, now here, what does it mean? We haven't saved this Excel as a macro workbook, so it's asking us to save it as a macro workbook. The following features cannot be saved. Let's save it, and we're going to save it into an XLSM format. So don't worry if your file is not macro enabled, it simply will help you along when you go. So save. Now let's go back and close our box here. Now here you go. You can't auto save. We need to save it. So we're going to go to Save As. And we're going to save it as an Excel SM. Save. And yes, we want to replace it if there is anything there already. Now we've got to our sheet. Now this is the magic. Okay, let's start typing. I am a very long text. Okay, what do you think is going to happen here? All right, so now you see that the columns have automatically fit to the text that you've added. So let's just try this and we're going to close these a little bit and let's just type in a whole load of stuff here. What happens? Perfect. So the macro is going to auto fit our columns and this is going to prevent any of the hashtag errors in our Excel sheet. Now, in this example, we're going to look at the value error and an alert. So how do we have our data presented? We have the sales in 22 and 23, and we're going to look for the difference. And simply the difference is column E, take away the column D. Now, when we drag our formula down, you can see that we have a minus 27,000 here because this is blank. So that works out fine. And similarly, we have a plus 40,000 here because 2022 is blank. However, you come down to the Farming GPS Navigator and we have a value error. Okay, now let's just click onto that. Now, can you see this little triangle that's appeared on the left top hand corner of the cell? And then you have a little alert or a hazard kind of sign with an exclamation mark. Now, when you click to the right hand side of it, it says a value used in the formula is of the wrong data type. What does this mean? But it's actually very blank. So we can do two things. We can see what the error is, we can help, and we can ignore the error if we want. We can even edit the formula if our formula was very complicated, but this is very simple. So let's just click into the cell and see what happened. Okay, well, let's have a look at the formula bar at the top here. And can you see that we have a little single apostrophe and a couple of spaces? Now, this is what's giving us the error. We are never going to know that, especially when your cell is just looking blank to you. So we can do two things. You can perform a clean operation in a helper column and extend that formula, or we can simply go here and type in the if error. So we go to if error, tab across. Now, if there's an error with this, what are we going to do? We're going to just write error in formula. So then that way we can come back and see what's going on, and we don't have to spend too much time scratching our heads and figuring out what's happening. So there we go. We have an error in our formula. And now what is it telling us? We have a second error. This formula differs from the formula above. So what do we want to do? We want to make sure that this formula is dragged across top and bottom so that if there are any other errors in any of the other cells, then we can simply use the same formula. So let's just go in here and just type in a couple of spaces, and you see there is an error in the formula right there as well. Moving on to the name error. What is the name error? All right, so we have our data here and we have the sum of the data. Now we want to sum the second range as well, 2023, but we get a name error. Now, what does the error tell us? It's an invalid name error. So Excel really does help you, and it will show you if you've got an error. As you see, we've typed two M's here, and the way to solve it is just simply remove one M, and you see you come up with the range of functions here. So enter, and that solves our name error. Okay, let's move on. At number 5, we have the hashtag spill error. What is a spill error all about? Now, might sound like something that's spilled. Exactly, that's what it is. So we have a range of data here. Now we're going to perform a function, and this function is going to not only appear in one cell, but it's going to appear in a range of cells. And this is where you get the spill error. Let me give you an example here. So let's just type in unique. Oh, let's go to the right place and type it in. Right, let's go here, equals unique. Now it's going to give us a unique value from a range or array. We want a unique department value here. All right, now let's ignore the rest of the arguments. This is the one that we need. Okay, when we press enter, you see that we have a spell error. Once again, we can go to our little triangle here, and the spill range isn't blank. Cells are obstructing, and this is where we find how we can solve our error. Okay, now as you see that we have a cell here and it says I'm in the way. If there is anything in the way of an array function, it's going to give you this error. So let's simply delete this, and you see that our range of data has spilled correctly with our answer. Moving on to number 6, the hashtag div error. Now, I'm sure if you've been sent a lot of Excel sheets with numbers and data in it, you would have seen this error, and it looks pretty ugly to me. So what does it mean? Now we have our data here, we have our chart here where we have our percentage, and all we are doing is dividing 23 over 22 to see the percentage of growth. Okay, now when we go down, you can see that this value here is at a 0%. But now what happens when we go a little bit lower? So as you notice, you have the E75 divided by ED75. Now here we have the other way around, where you have a value first and you're trying to divide it by a 0. So it's very simple. A divide by a 0 error is what we're getting, and when we click onto our little triangle here, it simply gives you that you have a divide by 0 error. Now, sometimes you might be waiting for data, sometimes there is no data in these fields. So let's just say there's no data. So what we're going to do here is use an if error to solve it. Now, once again, right, you see, now we've typed that incorrectly. So we have a name error. Now, if we type in if error, tab across. Okay, now what do we want to do when we have an incorrect value? We are just simply going to be writing no data. Okay, so then that way we know that if there is no data, it's simply going to just put that in, and there you go. Now, once again, the error here is showing you that it has a different formula from the cell above it. So to solve that, we're going to just take that and drag it, and we're going to do the same and drag it down. And now we have a beautiful sheet without those ugly div errors. Number 7, we're going to have a look at the hashtag ref error. Okay, we have a data chart here, and in column F, we have a simple sum between D plus an E cell. Okay, so what a ref error does is it's looking for a reference, and if that reference is not available anymore in your data, it's going to give you this error. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's just highlight our 2023 data. Now we're going to delete this and see what happens. So Control minus. Okay, now when we do that, let's move the cells to the left. And there you go. So we have a total column here with a ref error. Now, what does the ref error mean? It means an invalid cell reference, because it's simply going ahead and it's trying to find E90. It's got D90, but it can't find E90. So if this error does come up, it's going to be a very tricky one, because if someone has sent you the data and the cell references are not available to do the actual sum, then it's going to be very tricky for you to solve this. So you will need to get the exact data set from the person who may have sent you the data. Okay, let's move on. Now, when we're working with lookup tables, we always tend to get some type of error, and we have different ways to handle it. We're going to look at the hashtag NA error. What do we have here? We have a table where we want to add the department by looking it up from the lookup table with the item name and the department. So let's just go ahead and go and do our lookup. So our lookup value is here, and comma, our table array is here. Our column index is 2, and we're going to want an exact match. So we are going to type in a 0 from that. Okay, enter. Oh, okay, now we have an NA. Now let's just drag this and see what happens. Right, so it does find some of the data, but not every single thing. Let's go here, let's click into our value, and it says our value is a not available error. So very easy to identify the errors in Excel as well. Okay, now how can we fix this? It's very hard again to fix it, because if you notice here, you have a Samsung Smart TV with a dot after the T and after the V. And in the lookup table, we don't. So there's no way to know if this matches this, especially when you have larger data sets. Now, if we simply just go ahead here and we type in the T and the V here and a dot after, you'll see what happens. It changes. Let's just Control Z that. Now, the only way to really, I would say, hide the errors rather than solve the errors is by using another function called IFNA. So let's type this in, IFNA, just like the if error, but this time it's very specific if there is an NA error, because you could have different errors inside of the same data table. Okay, if there's an NA error, we just want it to say not found. Okay, so let's just type that in, not found, and let's close that up, and there you go. So now, once again, let's just drag that formula, and we can see that we have everything there. Okay, now I'm just going to undo that. Control Z, Control Z. Now I want to show you something a bit cool. If you have rows with errors in it and you don't want to change the errors for whatever reason, you want to keep the errors, but you don't want to present your data with the errors, and you want to hide these columns now instead of going to each single column and hiding it, which could take forever, especially when you have large data sets. Control Z to bring that back. We are going to do something cool. So let's just highlight our data here. Okay, now follow me. Control G. This is going to open up the special dialog box. Go to special, and here let's go to formulas, and let's uncheck numbers, text, logicals, and keep the errors checked here. Press OK. Now this function is just highlighting the errors. That's all it's doing. What we want to do is extend this and hide all of the rows that has been selected. So Control and 9 will simply hide those rows. So if you have that, that's just amazing, and you will be able to see no errors in your data. But just remember that it is hidden here, and you can just Control Z to bring it back if you need. Now, if you are struggling with text and fixing your text correctly, please watch this video over here and you will find everything that you need to clean up your text errors in Excel. Okay, let's move on. Moving on to number 9, where we can look at our null error. Now, why does this happen? Let me give you a demo. Now, let's say we are summing up two ranges. We want the total of 2022 sales and 2023. Okay, we're going to sum this up, and now we're going to be a hero and we're going to add up the ranges ourselves. So we're going to type in D29, D139, let's get the right range here, D139, and we are going to go all the way to D148. Okay, and then we want, so E139 and colon, and we're going to go down to E148. Oh, great. Okay, so this should give us the total of everything, correct? Let's press enter, and we have a null error. Why does this null error happen? Okay, let's go here. Let's have a look at what it says. A null error doesn't really give you much help, but what happened here? If we go across, you can see that you are missing a comma between the two ranges that you wanted to sum up. So just put that comma in and press enter, and now you have your value. Coming in at number 10 is circular references. Now, what do we mean by this? Let's have a look at this data right here. Okay, you have the 2022 data and you have the 2023 data. Now, if you sum this up, you'll see that you have the 23 data here. However, for whatever reason, the sum on the cell of 2022 seems to bring up a 0 error. Now let's just have a look at the percentage on the column F, and you can see that this is also a 0%, but everything else has a percentage, and well, if you look at the two numbers, we should be able to get a percentage here. Something is not quite right. This is called a circular reference, and how are we going to have a look at this? So let's just click on to our cell where we have an error, go across to formulas, and we can simply go and check this, which is trace precedence. Now, when we check that, it shows you that basically all of these cells are included in the sum, and that includes the sum value. So when you see the sum D153 all the way to D163 is not what we want. So we can also do this by saying show formulas, and we can see that the formula is at 163 and it's giving us a suggestion to change it to, let's go and change this to 162, and now we have the correct amount of data that we need. Press enter and that should bring that up, and let's just close that, and you see that our data's come up. Let's simply just go up to, again, the percentage here, trace the precedent, and now it gives you a blue arrow showing you that you have once again a reference, a circular reference. Now, what do we want to do about the circular reference is we simply go here we go to show formulas, and you can see that the rest of the formulas here are D161 over DE161, which are the two columns that we want. Now this has by accident an F, which is dividing this by the cell where you want the actual answer to be, which you can't do. So let's click here and let's just solve this. Add an E here and enter. And now that should give us the right answer. Let's remove it. And there you go. Our percentage. Thank you for watching this video today. I hope that you've learned something new. And if you did, I would appreciate a like and subscribe. And until next time, happy spreadsheeting.